60 years ago tonight, Wilt Chamberlain set perhaps the most unbreakable record in NBA history, scoring 100 points in the Philadelphia Warriors win over the New York Knicks. After the game, the late, great Harvey Pollack arranged this iconic photograph of Wilt holding that 100 sign, still one of the league's most enduring images. To look back on Wilt's 100-point game, we welcome in now Gary Pomerantz, whose 2005 book, Wilt 1962, The Night of 100 Points and the Dawn of a New Era, was a New York Times bestseller. It's a tremendous book. Gary, thanks so much for being with us on this, the 60th anniversary of that historic game between the Philadelphia Warriors and, coincidentally, the New York Knicks. That game, of course, in 1962, held in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Millions of basketball fans who would love to take a time machine to see that game, but it certainly wasn't a hot ticket at the time. Can you set the scene surrounding that game back in 1962? And why was it in Hershey instead of maybe Philly or New York?
Yeah, well, when you think about Wilt's 100-point game, you have to put aside any notions you have of the NBA today, the glamour and the glitz. Back then, the league was sort of like a lounge act in search of itself. And they were trying to grow new fans. So the Philadelphia Warriors, Wilt's Warriors, played 3 games that season in Hershey at the same time the Celtics were playing in Providence and Cincinnati Royals were playing in Dayton.
It seems crazy to think that they were trying to drum up support, and they've got a guy who would later then hold up that 100-point sign. You know, when you look at the box score from the game, Wilt, 36 of 63 from the field, also 28 from 32 from the free throw line. People give Joel Embiid grief about his free throws. Look at that. His points piled up that night. What strategies did opposing the Knicks use to try to stop him? Because clearly they didn't work.
Right. Well, I mean, you've touched on the miracle of Hershey. Wilt, a horrendous free throw shooter, hitting 28 of 32. Later, when Wilt said he wanted to fight Muhammad Ali, his father said, "Wilt, don't you think you'd be better served practicing free throws?" Well, the Knicks were a last place team. They just their sense of dread increased as this game went on, knowing that if this guy scored 100 points against them, people were going to be talking about it in 60 years' time. They stationed everyone they had in the last 7 minutes around Wilt, everyone but the Empire State Building, and they still couldn't stop him. This was a case of Wilt imposing his impressive will, bending a team and an entire sport to his will.
You mentioned the impressive, performance, and he was just a bigger than life type of character. But people maybe don't realize where he was in his career when he hit the 100. Give us like a picture a little bit about where he was in relation to where he ended up, I guess.
Well, when I was a kid, I was growing up in Los Angeles, and I saw Wilt as an old muscled-up Laker wearing his yellow headband, primarily a defensive player, and I heard he scored 100 points, and I was like, how did that guy score 100 points in a game? Well, the truth is that guy didn't. It was the earlier iteration of Wilt, 25 years old, 7'1", 260 pounds, massive back, 31-inch waist. He ran the floor like a train. And, there's this misconception that he scored on 50 dunks that night, and nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, if you listen to the WCAU radio call by Bill Campbell, and it's all that exists is a fourth quarter, you can hear the array of shots Wilt is scoring on. Putbacks, his fall-away bang shot, a few dipper dunks, and even one out near the top of the circle.
There's a reason why sometimes Joel Embiid's name is being mentioned with Wilt Chamberlain, and it's not just because that they both donned that Philadelphia uniform. When we think about the NBA now, the closest anyone has come to Wilt's 100 points, Kobe Bryant, 81 against Toronto in 2006. Do you think Wilt's record is one of those that's just unbreakable? We just will never see it, even though we do see that three-point shot is so much more prevalent than it's ever been?
Well, you think of baseball's Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak, Wilt's 100-point game as unbreakable for sure. But, Wilt had another number that year that's even maybe more unbreakable. He averaged 48 and a half minutes a game. The games are only 48 minutes long. There was a triple overtime game. He missed only 8 minutes and 33 seconds of the entire season when he got thrown out of a game for arguing. With today's time management of players, I don't think anybody is getting to 100 points in a game or 48 and a half minutes per game average anytime soon.
Yeah, you're looking at maybe 40 minutes and everybody's thinking that guy has played a lot of basketball. Gary Pomerantz, who literally wrote the book on Wilt's 100-point game. We so appreciate you joining us on the 60th anniversary here on Sixers Pregame Live. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Great pleasure.